is all that we desire already exists. And the 80-20 rule that we see a couple of people talk about it, or it's even come up in movies. 80% or 20%, what is the amount or the percentage that we apply to that which we say we desire, that which we say we want, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's changing yourself in the sense of things that you want for yourself, within yourself. We've talked about in the past where we deal with the inner chatter. So as I was driving to work this week, or on the bus to work this week, I was thinking about the 80-20, because I was listening to something and it triggered off that thought. Is 80% of what I'm doing, out of the 100%, is it positive and is it reinforcing that which I desire for me? Whether it's a career, whether it's relationships, whether it's financial, and the other 20%, is it the negative things, or is it the 20% out of it is the positive things? Okay. So as a community of people, I thought we talk about many different topics. So, but as a community of people, I come back to go, what affects us and infects us in our community, both spiritually, mentally, socially, otherwise. How much of that is positive in the sense of 80%, or how much of it is positive in the sense of 20%? And how much of it is negative, either 20 or 80?
I mean, well, everyone has to answer that for themselves, because again, it has to do with your environment, your upbringing, stuff that, I can't answer. It's not a general.
So as your upbringing?
For my upbringing, 80 is the positive, 20 is the negative.
Okay.
I don't even know that ratio. I don't like that ratio, to be honest. I don't like that ratio, to be honest. Because everyone has their negative thoughts and the inner chatter, as you always say, but you have to know when to take control of that and suppress that, and let the positive kick in. But your first question was
all that we desire already exists.
Yes, it does exist, but it's for us to tap into it. It's already there. It's just for us to tap into it. Because just as we had the inner chatter for the negative, there's inner chatter for the positive. And you can keep having that inner chatter, but you got to do something about it. So I think inner chatter is not always a negative thing. It's a conversation you have. Everybody has inner chatter. But again,
I talked to you this week and you were telling me you were thinking and contemplating about some stuff too. So
right.
You were evaluating some stuff, which has been positive.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but it has to.
But most of the times,
relationship,
we find society with more negative than there is positive. But it's like you look at the news, you look at what's going on in the article, different articles.
But again, it's what you pour in, it's what you're gonna, it's what you taking in, it's what you taking.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, I know it's like I think it was yesterday. I'm looking into my retirement stuff. I got shit to do. I got plans. You understand? So there's things I'm trying to do for myself. I'm not old, but I'm preparing myself for things because
nothing's gonna surprise you.
Yeah, and
like you're 65, time to retire.
65. Hell to the no. But I'm just saying.
What, you're planning to retire before 65?
Yes, hell no.
Okay.
Sorry, why am I working when I'm 60? No. So, it was really great. Everything happens in its time for whatever reason. And, I was calling for something else and I got more information. I'm like, that's lovely. 52? Yeah. But I'm saying, again, it's what you take in.
So at what age, and again, I go back to the 80-20. 80% of what you have done since you graduated high school or graduated college has been preparing you for the retirement.
Yeah.
But what about, speak to the individuals who are either just coming out of high school or just coming out of college and is in that space where I don't know what to do. I don't know what to go to college for.
But it doesn't even happen when you come out of high school, college. You could be 40 something, honey. Yeah, you'd be like, I don't know what to do. I'm just saying. No, okay, sorry. But what But those who just coming out, my thing is, find what you love to do, and what you love to do is not always going to make you money. It's not always going to be a job.
Yeah.
It's something you got to realize.
Yeah.
Because I was an English major, and you're like, oh, I could have went into teaching, but you'd see me on the 10 o'clock news. I ain't got no time for that.
What
shit.
are you saying that you're aggressive? You're gonna beat somebody's
I'm not
kid's
gonna be
ass?
I don't have time, because my whole thing is education nowadays. It's not about teaching. It's about what you coming from your house with, and I got to do with your. No, I'm not a counselor. I was here to teach. I ain't gonna do it. So I'm saying I could have done that, but that's not. So I've been mostly in the arts, and it's funny because I'm creative.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
yeah.
I love the field that I'm in. It gives me that flexibility to do things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Well, thank the Lord for a job. I thank you for a job. It gets wonderful benefits, and and then again I get to do all my creative stuff on the side. So going back to, you may not know exactly what it is you're going to do when you. I would say, let me go to even to college, but not everyone goes to college. Find something that you're good at that you really love, because you really find something that because I could think back, as you spoke about it in a past video, when I used to do flyers. I didn't even remember that. Mm-hmm. I've been creative from I was young.
Yeah.
And it gradually changed.
Did you find the community
it stayed the same?
Support your dream?
What community?
In the sense of church?
No. I mean.
I think you got some opportunities from them to do flyers for them. They might not have paid you what you deserve, but
it allowed me to use my gift.
Yeah.
It allowed me to give. But
that's what I'm saying.
Support wise, like when I did my magazine, and I started out with a staff, and then people didn't like the stuff that I was printing by staff. I'm good by myself. So it's like. They did have a somewhat of a, but yeah.
The bulk of it was you.
And my family supported me. My parents, they supported me.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that was the 80.
Yeah.
What was the 20, which was negative? The ones who didn't support, the staff who had religion govern their feelings about the topics you might have wanted to discuss.
Yeah, but even at the 20, I'm not even really focusing on that part. On overall, the 20 had to me because the 20, and I can even still bring that to today. Bring that to today. I'm not even gonna mess with the ratio. Leave it at 80-20, whatever. But the 20 is just dealing with self doubt, things that you want to make better of yourself, that are things that probably already better, but you just don't see them for yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes time to. Yeah, it's there, but you don't. Everyone else see it, but you ain't really seeing it. I'm gonna get there eventually. 20 is not that bad. We gonna get there eventually. So, yeah, that's there.
Well, for me, as I search daily now about myself, and I don't want to always sound. If you are what you are, you are what you are. So I don't want to say that I don't want to sound spiritual and holy than now, but I really do spend time each day checking myself and the level of comfortability with who I am and who I'm becoming. But I also know, again, sometimes, and I would say 80% of what my day-to-day decision making is that influence who I am as a person. 80% of it has been positive, whether from the job, whether from friends, whether from family. But, as I observe my community and see people struggle, whether in poverty, based on choice, because they're lazy, they don't want to get up and go find a job. As I said before, there are people who, and I mentioned it before, there are people who are now sitting in my community on the sidewalk with a dog begging for $1. But the dog look healthier than my dog. I have a problem with that. So my thing is, what are we saying to our kids or to our community that is okay for you to look homeless because our society that is so sympathetic that they're going to always give you $1? There are many jokes or comments I've had from friends who we talk about people who come up on the subway and they have a gimmick of, this is my daughter, excuse me everybody, I don't want to bother you, but we're hungry. Meanwhile, you're looking at them going, shouldn't your kid be in school? For me, I really have a problem with that, because it's not like we're in a third world country. We're in America that if you're hungry, there's always some place to get food. So now you're sitting on the subway begging, and or on the bus begging. For me, in that space, my desire is to help my community or help someone in my community, But then you got to think about who the hell are you trying to help?
When does it
Because
stop?
their wallet might be bigger than yours, and you're trying to give your hard-earned dollar to them. So in me, going to work, and I thought about how many of us really chase our dreams and chase our passion, and how much of us really spend time daily to check ourselves. We tend to judge also 80% of the time more so than we are sympathetic to someone. The last video we just did talked about the individuals them who might look different in society, and check that video out, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it also goes back to most of what we do is judge, but we've never really had discussions. So to say sit down next to a homeless man and go, why are you here? What has been your story that led you here? Other videos we did, we talk about challenging the person who put out that fuckery about half of the stuff was supposed to be set for marriage. You still go back to say 80% of what you're doing is opposite to what you stand for anyway. But you still know, because it's more popular in the religious community to stand on that side of the fence. So instead of standing in your truth, you stand on that side of the fence 80% of the time. Meanwhile, your 80 is over here. Where loving yourself, being honest with who you are, the things that you've done, the decisions you have made. If most of us stand there in our 80, truthfully, then the 20% with the inner chatter or our community who's gossiping or talking wouldn't really matter, because even when you mention you're 20, whether it's 20 or whether it's 5 or whether it's 10, you're like, that don't matter, because you have been focusing on your 80 all your life. So when it comes to retirement, when it comes to looking for a job, there are a lot of people now coming out of college in their late 20s or 30s, and they're never really passionate about anything other than in their mind, I gotta get this job that's gonna pay my bills, and nobody talk about investment. Nobody talk about, what the job coming with. If I put $20, is the job gonna put another $20?
See, but that comes from who's raising them, because I learned that stuff from my parents.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Looking into retirement, knowing what benefits are,
Insurance, life insurance policies.
Insurance, I learning what renter's insurance is. Yeah, all the stuff I learned from my parents. So I'm blessed to have that source.
Yeah.
Because isn't
that funny though, that we might be side by side in our community with someone who have that knowledge, but because we never really find the time to talk,
we don't share it.
And how many of our older, your parents are great. They're good where they are. They're going on cruises and all that stuff. They're good. But how many other people, elderly wise, that are now retired and they don't know where the next meal coming from? Because they never invest in themselves. I think I was talking to Richie's mom yesterday when she was saying that she heard some chick on the subway talking to another, or on the dollar van or whatever it was, in public, talking on the phone, going, "Girl, don't you know the first thing you do before you even pay your rent, you got to get your hair done?" And his mom was sitting there cringing like, "Oh my God, do you know how stupid you sound?" but you got to mind your business and kind of chuckle inside to go, if that's your 80%, why you gonna be broke at 50?
She don't live in her hair.
Picture tent and all the old wigs become coverage. Because it's just stupid.
Oh God.
But nobody really talk about it. And again, I heard somebody said this before too. You never go to high school and people teach you about finance. So 80% of the brokenness in the school falls under that. Teach me the right thing. But again, who profit from it? Which was that's a whole other topic. But just to touch on that a little bit, society, 80% of society is funding our taxes here. And if you would even look at the latest, political conversation, they talk about the 1% who is billionaires and millionaires, they pay less taxes than the poor or the middle class. So when you think about that, society, 80% of us is making up for 100% of the bills that the government accumulate. But nobody turns around and says, listen, if you put $5 a week away from your thing and invest it in this stock or in this bond, you'll make this amount when you reach 60. Most people go, Uncle Sam won't take care of me, I'm going to get that social security check. And there are people right now that dance going to collect their welfare money. And they're in their 20s and 30s. So 80% of what you're doing today is going to give you 100% reward when you get old. And, you know, most of us who play lotto, I mean, I do sometimes.
Every now and then, do a scratch off.
But it's not a habit where I'm going to spend all my money.
I don't know. But when I do, when I scratch off, like say it's $5, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I scratch off, and I get that $5, I was like, I'm rich. I get my $5. I'm rich.
Because you got back your investment.
I got it back.
Yeah.
They be like, well, I'm like, get my $5, thank you. Shit.
You know, so for us as a community of people, I'm worried about, you know, the ones who don't know. And maybe one day in the future we will bring somebody on that can talk about financial stuff, because I think it's necessary. Richie Mom, always. Oh, by the way, guys, if you get a chance, check out there's a guy, I'm sure you can find him someplace, Dave Ramsey. He talks about finance. And I've been, you know, I have the book, I haven't touched it yet, but I listen to sometimes his podcast, or Richie Mom will share that information with us. And it'd be surprising to see someone who bought a house for $150,000 paid off in 7 years or 5 years. And they're making between, maybe the couple they're making say 60,000 between the two. So husband makes 30, the wife makes 30, whatever. But they're living comfortably and within their means, compared to Pookie, who wants to be in the projects because it helps, because government help you having a shelter, but you're not willing to live greater because you're comfortable in the salary that you're making, whether you're working at McDonald's or whether it's just you sitting on your ass having multiple babies and thinking that government owe you something. You know, so again, in that process of evaluating the 80-20, I thought about how many of our people in our community that are 80% positive and 20% negative. And if it's vice versa, if it's 80% negative and 20% positive, if you look at our community now and the transition that even Bed-Stuy is going through, you'll see 80% of who are moving in can afford the rent. They're buying buildings, they're creating a different environment than what it was even 20 years ago. When you drive by every other block, there's open lots, house looks like it's leaning. Nowadays it's like totally renovation coming, you know, houses are building brand new, nice houses. So for me, you can see the transition. But most of the people are complaining now in the neighborhood that who've been renting for 20 years and 30 years that they can't stay here any longer because the rent's going up. So for me, I look at that and going, I always believe, as my mom teach me, as you say, come from home, work towards getting your own. I know you have your dreams for a house, whatever that might be, but you're not dependent on somebody to come in and go, baby, you know, I'm gonna make up with you. I mean, it would be nice, but you already preconceive what you want to afford and the price range that you're gonna be in. With the next generation, like, you know, you pay for your hair, you pay for your rent. You won't see 10, 20 years from now, I believe, a greater gap between the poor and the middle class and the rich. Because if you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting what you're getting. But if you change and tweak your thought process of having more in the sense of for self-value, having more in the sense of where you want to live in 20 years, how you want to live in 20 years. So therefore, when they offer you overtime on the job, you're going to take that extra 2 hours or whatever hours they give you. Instead of going out and buying the latest Gucci and the Fendi and the this and the that, I don't need that. So I'm going to chill with this. Instead of going out to the supermarket and buying up the groceries and it's only you alone, you'll get to then go consider going to Costco or BJ's where you can buy in the bulk and you get a whole 50-pound bag of rice and it lasts you about 6-7 months, 8-9 months. You work smarter, not harder. So hopefully this whole thing is just to address the 80-20. What is your 80-20? Put it down below, because we need to have a conversation about positive things in our life and reinforce the positive. We need to think about the negative things and address the negative, because sometimes that negative is 80, which actually holds us down. So respond, check it out, give me your input down below.